Hi there. We're going on to percentages today. You're going to need a calculator later on, but we're just going to recap what we were doing last week on the fractions. So if you know what you're doing, just bash on with this and scoot along to where I'm giving you the answers. Okay, so first of all, when we've got 3 1/4, add 2 4/5, what I want us to do is leave the whole numbers as they are, and we'll make equivalent fractions. Okay, remember this was Friday's work last week. Should be fairly fresh in your mind. So we need a common denominator for quarters and fifths now. So the lowest number that 4 and 5 both go into is 20. So we're going to change both of these to 20ths. So now we need to have a look and see what we've multiplied 4 by to get 20. So that's 5. And we need to do the same to the top. So we need 5 on the top. Then, saying how many 5s are in 20? Well, that's been multiplied by 4. So we need to do the same to the 4 there. So that gives us 16. So altogether, look at the whole numbers first. We've got 3 add 2. So that makes 5. And then we've got 5 20ths. Add 16 20ths. Makes 21 20ths. But that doesn't make sense to leave that like it is, because we don't want a mixed number and an improper fraction in the same thing. Okay, so we're going to change this improper fraction. Remember that there are 20 20ths in a whole one. So we've got another whole one that gives us 6, and then we've got 1 20th left over. Okay, and the other one, when we're multiplying or dividing, we can't leave the mixed numbers there. We need to change them to improper fractions. So remember the way that we do that is this times this, add this on the top. So 2 times 4 is 8, add 1 is 9, and the bottom stays as it was. Then we do 9 times 3 is 27, add 5 is 32. So we've got 9 over 2 times 32 over 9. And then remember, what I'd like you to do is simplify before you do any multiplying. Okay, we don't want to be working out 9 times 32 if we don't need to. But we can see that we've got a 9 here and a 9 here. So we've got one of each of those. So we can cancel them or simplify. Okay, and then we can see that 32 and 2 are both in the 2 times table. So we've got one of them here and 16 of them there. So altogether on the top, we've got 1 times 16 is 16. On the bottom, we're only left with 1 times 1, which is 1. And then remember, a fraction means top divided by bottom. So 16 divided by 1 is just 16. So whenever you've got over 1, you don't write the over 1 as your answer. Okay? So well done if you got them. Now, last week, we spent all week looking at fractions, and we worked our way through the 4 operations on fractions: add, subtract, multiply and divide. So this week we're moving on to percentages, and today's job is to look at increasing and decreasing amounts by a percentage, and words that we're going to come across there are appreciation and depreciation. Okay. So what I'm going to do is show you the way that you would probably know to work out a percentage of an amount, and then I'm going to show you a way of reducing your working. Okay, so first of all, the prices in a clothes shop are all going up by 15%. Find the new price of a top that costs £18 now. So I expect what you would do, and you can use a calculator for this, is you would find 15% of 18. Okay, now different ways of finding 15%. You basically need to work out 15 out of 100, because percent means out of 100, of means times, and then working out 15% of 18. Some of you will go straight to a decimal, so instead of writing 15 over 100, you write 0.15 times 18, which is absolutely fine. Either of those are fine. Okay, so when we work that out, we're doing 0.15 times 18, or 15 divided by 100 times 18, and we get 2.7. But that's not the answer to the question, because we're supposed to find the new price of the top. So we are starting off with £18 and we are increasing it by £2.7. So that gives us £20.7. But remember, this is money. So we need a pound sign and we need an extra decimal place. Okay? Right, so let's park that at one side and I want to show you a different way of working this out. Okay? So, if your price is going up by 15%, that means if you started off with 100%, you're going to end up with 115%. So instead of working out 15% and then adding it on, we can work out 115% of £18 and then we're straight at the answer. We've only got one calculation to do. Okay, so we're finding out 115% of £18. So you can either do that as 15 over 100, 115 over 100 times 18, or you can do it as 1.15 times 18. It doesn't matter, okay? Just remember that to change a percentage into a decimal, you're dividing by 100. Okay? So 1.15 times 18, just check, you get straight to the 20.7, which remember means £20.70. So we've cut out that need to be adding on the amount here by working out the percentage that we're going to end up with. Okay, we're going to do that again here. Right, house prices rise, and the word for things, the value of things rising, is appreciate. So house prices appreciate by approximately 2% per year. So they go up by approximately 2% per year. A house is worth £152,000 now. Find out what it'll be worth next year. Right, so we want to increase our amount by 2%. Okay? So remember, we're starting off with 100% and we're increasing by 2%. So what we're actually finding is 102% of £152,000. Okay, and then the way that we work out 102% of £152,000 is we can either do 102 divided by 100 times 152,000, or we can go straight to a decimal. Remember, to change a percentage to a decimal, you're doing exactly what you've just said here. You're dividing by 100. So it's 1.02 times £152,000. Okay, so if you just go straight to the answer, you get 155,040 pounds. Okay, so we haven't had to do any adding or subtracting there because we went straight to the answer. Let's look at the next one. Right, a car's value falls, and that means depreciates. Okay, so appreciation is money that's increasing. Depreciation is the value in money that is falling. Okay, so we're going to have to reduce the car's value by 11%. Okay, so in our heads, what we're doing is 100 take away 11, so that's 89. Okay, so what we're actually finding is 89% of £8,900. Okay, and to find 89% of £8,900, we're going to do 89 divided by 100. So that is either going to be 89 over 100, or it's going to be 0.89. It doesn't matter, they're the same thing. And then we're going to multiply by the 8,900. And of course, whichever way we do it, we're going to get the same answer. Oops. I just pressed divide by accident there and got a really, really ridiculous number. So 7,921, whichever way we work it out. And remember, it's money, so we need our pound signs. Okay, so I think tomorrow what we're going to go on to is where we're working out when there's more than 1% increase. So we might be looking at what the car would be worth in a few years' time, for example. Okay, so when we're doing that, the way that we're going to set it out is ever so slightly different. It's just that I'm going to put the amount first, and this number here is called the multiplier. Okay, so once you've decided what percentage you end up with and changed it into a decimal, that's called the multiplier. Okay, so we're going to do one more example. Maybe two, we'll see. So in a particular forest, the number of red squirrels is 256, so we're not talking about money now. The red squirrel numbers are falling by 10.5% per year. How many will there be in the forest this time next year? Okay, so we need to reduce 256 by 10.5%. Okay, so the first thing we need to work out is 100 take away 10.5. That gives us 89.5. Okay, so we're finding 89.5% of 256. Okay, so we can go straight to working out the answer. We're starting off with 256 squirrels, and we multiply by our multiplier. Okay, now remember this 89.5 is a percentage, so we're either multiplying by 89.5 divided by 100, or we're multiplying by 0.895. Okay, either is fine because they mean exactly the same thing. Okay, both of these are going to reduce our 256 by 10.5%. So whichever way you choose to work that out, you end up with 229.12. Now, remember, this is not money. This is squirrels. Okay? You can't have 0.12 of a squirrel, thankfully. So we round it down to the nearest whole squirrel. So 229 squirrels is the answer. Okay? I'm actually just going to do one more example with you with money, just to show you. So I'm not even going to write out a big long sentence. I'm going to say there's a bank account that pays 1.8% interest per annum. And we're going to work out how much money we've got if we, invested £260 in this account. Okay, so first of all, per annum means per year. Okay, so we're going to find out how much money we've got after 1 year if we invested £260. Okay, so interest is money that's added on, so we need to increase our amount by 1.8%. Okay, so we need to be thinking about 100 add 1.8. So be careful, that is 101.8. Okay, so it's 101.8% that we need to find of 260. The biggest mistake that I see when marking tests and things on this is that people write 118%, and that's not right. Okay, remember, if you're increasing by 1.8%, you're adding 1.8 onto 100, so it's 101.8. Okay, so what we're going to do is take our starting amount and we're going to find out 101.8% of that by multiplying by our multiplier. And remember, our multiplier is this number expressed as a decimal. So we can either do 101.8 over 100, or we could use 1.018, because that is 101.8 divided by 100. Okay, whichever way you do it, you get £264.68. So for leaving your money in that account for a year, you end up with £264.68 rather than your £260 that you started with. So the interest that you've gained is £4.68, because that's how much more you've got now. Okay, so the important things when we're setting these out is start with your amount of money or amount of squirrels or whatever it is you've got, then times, and then you need this multiplier. And the multiplier is always going to be, you start off with 100%, and then you either add or subtract the change. Okay, so you add if it's increasing, you subtract if it's decreasing. So that's your percentage change. And then to change that into a decimal, you divide it by 100. Okay, so if your change is that you're adding 5%, then you do 105 divided by 100. If your change is that you were reducing by 5%, you'd be doing 95 divided by 100. Okay, so try and practice these. Feel free to watch the video again if you're not sure if this is a new idea to you, but we're going to be building on this tomorrow. So I'll see you then.